Did you see
An exciting opener goes down to the wire, but the Jazz fall short to the Grizzlies, showing a ton of fight. We'll break it down next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Postcast. David Locke along with Ron Boone as the Utah Jazz fall 126 to 124 against the Memphis Grizzlies, a game in which the Jazz really looked like overmatched by the defensive physicality of Memphis for most of the first half. Battled back, still trailed by 7, finally took the lead for the first time since 14-11 in the first quarter. They took the lead in the fourth quarter, but then at the end, Morant made too many plays. Big three by Desmond Bane as well. Huff, who's that? A Virginia product, got some of the Jazz. Showed a lot of battle. Lauri Markkanen was just fabulous tonight, getting to the free throw line 14 different times, 35 points. That's why you signed that guy to a 5-year contract, Ron. He was just great tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. After not really making himself known, for the most part, known meaning he was just out there on the floor in that first half. He really came to life in the second half, got to the free throw line, knocked down some threes. I'm getting to the point where I'm impressed with him trying to take the basketball coast to coast off the dribble, and hopefully some good things happen going forward with that.
All right, let's look at this one for a second. The Jazz offensively really, really scuffled early in this game. That was kind of the story early in this. Scottie Pippen Jr. got into the Keonte George. The offense struggled. The Jazz offense rating was an 85 at the end of the first quarter. It was just a 96 in the first half. And then they battled back and fought through it. What was the difference between what the Jazz did in the second half compared to what was really a feckless first half offensively?
I thought they just made shots. They made shots, and again, it's very important for the Jazz. And I think things start to turn a little bit, David, when Colin Sexton was the one running the show, bringing the ball up the floor, getting the Jazz into something, or he was just taking, one-on-one and making some things happen himself. The Jazz field goal percentage increased every quarter from that standpoint. They end up shooting 47% from the field, which is very good. Better second half.
I mean, their offensive rating in the second half, I actually could pull it up now that I think about it. I have a neat program that lets me do this. Their offensive rating in the second half of this game, I think, has to be about 130. They were a 120. They finished the night at 120. So really a very, very impressive kind of offensive adjustments that took place at halftime, control the game. It certainly helped that Keonte hit a shot. He took the second most amount of shots he'd ever taken in the first half of a game this year, 9, but he didn't make a single shot. He came out and hit a few of them in the second half. They did relieve the burden of him of trying to handle that pressure. And, Ron, you mentioned in the broadcast, the book is out from last year still. Like, scouting reports don't disappear.
No,
players may be evolved, but the scouting report on the Jazz was to pick Keonte up, pressure him. That's what Portland did the other night. And Scottie Pippen Jr. came out here and just picked him up at 70 feet.
Yeah, making him change directions. And this is the problem I think that he's going to have if he's going to continue to play that way. I just think he needs, like Colin Sexton, push the ball up the floor, run up the floor. And you hear Scott Morrison, the assistant coach, talk about passing the basketball up the floor as well. And anything to get you to the point where you can get your defense scrambling and you can make some things happen. So you're right about the scouting report. It's out there. And again, in defense to him, this is only his second year playing point guard. So he's got some adjustments to make there.
Jazz went down. They got this game close. They played it down to the wire. They fell short. Did they fall short just because balls didn't bounce? Did they make some mistakes? What did you see late in this game?
I thought the Grizzlies did a great job of making plays. You remember when Morant comes back in the basketball game, I can't remember what the score was, but he had a couple of dribble drives. The Jazz picked him up, and he feeds
Santi Aldama on the baseline.
Aldama twice, as a matter of fact, for dunk. So it's the offense of Ja and the fact that, Jazz didn't match the scoring on the other end.
Aldama had 27 points, 10 of 15 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3 in place of Jaren Jackson Jr. Santi Aldama had a not very good year last year when he was not surrounded by good players due to all the injuries, kind of stepped backwards. But he had a very good year in Spain, very good offseason for playing for Spain. He may be a player that needs to play with good players. Yeah. Speaking of someone who played very well tonight, let's go to Walker Kessler. 16 points, 14 rebounds, 5 block shots tonight. Walker showed all of these signs in the preseason, and you wondered whether it was going to translate. That certainly translated.
Yeah, that was the matchup I wanted to watch at the beginning of the ball game. It's between him and Edie. Edie 7'3", Kessler 7'1". Edie seems got in foul trouble, but Walker Kessler was spectacular. Rebounding, he was able to score. Shot a great. He's always going to shoot a great percentage because most of his points are going to be at the rim. But defensively, blocking 5 shots in the ball game, which is good. I think he averaged about 4.5 last season.
3 and 4.5 would have led the league. Wembanyama was at 4 last year.
It was 4. I know it was at least 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you seeing that's different about Walker than you saw a year ago? I mean, remember a year ago.
Besides being stronger and bigger.
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
muscles,
I think that might be it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, a year ago, if you think back on it, it's the opener against Domantas Sabonis where he starts with John Collins and he gets his arm hurt, and then he tries to play through it for a little while and then sits out. And then when he comes back, he's coming off the bench and he never got a rhythm seemingly ever again on the season.
So let me ask you this, because if he's gained some weight and he's gotten stronger, that means he's not going to get pushed around as easily. That means that even a little bump is going to throw him off to the point where he can't explode, maybe rebounding, or gets himself in foul trouble because they're throwing him off balance. So either he's learned how to take bumps and be more physical, or the fact that he's gained muscle and weight over the summer that's keeping him, for the most part, not getting pushed around.
So I don't know if you ever went through this in your career because you were pretty strong by the time you left Idaho State and came to the NBA. Mm-hmm. But I also would think if you're not strong enough, you know it. And so you're playing a game trying to see how you can avoid getting pushed around and beaten because you know you can't handle that. Where if you suddenly have the confidence to be able to know you're all right, I would guess it allows you to play a totally different game.
Okay, let's go back to some of the practices we watch with some of the developmental coaches with Walker Kessler, bumping him around with the pillow type things that they have on their arms, trying to make him play physical, trying to make him be able to withstand bumps and still get the job done out there on the floor. And, that stuff after a while helps. It's the reason they do those things.
By the way, I got the number here. The Jazz offensive rating in the second half was a 148. That's incredible. They averaged
that'll win a lot of ball games for you.
What a great adjustment by everyone involved in that second half to get their effective field goal percentage was 66%. They went to the one thing I thought I saw was that Memphis was swiping and grabbing and fouling all the time. And in the second half, the Jazz embraced it. And they just lived at the free throw line in the second half and their free throw rate was outrageous in the second half because of the fact that Lowry was driving to the basket. Guys were willing to take that foul because it was getting them free throws.
Well, 35 fouls that the Grizzlies committed. The Jazz ended up with 24, if that's correct. And but the great thing, the Jazz were shooting free throws very early there in that fourth quarter. He missed a couple of key ones there. I think Keonte missed one. I thought that would have tied the score, put the Jazz at 1, something like that. And you're looking at very good free throw shooters that end up missing down the stretch.
Memo to the world. Yeah, Colin Sexton, by the way, missed more clutch free throws tonight.
Did he miss 2?
2 than he did all of last year. He was 16 of 17 last year in the clutch. He missed 2 tonight. All right. By the way, it's not quite hot boiling wax in my eyeballs, but I would like a note that I would prefer anything but 77 free throws in our next game.
Yes, please.
Now let's talk about Keonte, because that would be negligent if we didn't. 0 for 9 in the first half, 3 for 9 in the second half, 1 for 6 from the field, 5 for 9 from the free throw line, 7 assists. He only had 1 turnover, which feels like it was more than that because felt like he had a hard time getting into it. I wanted to do 2 things. The chat, which I don't usually react to, is a bunch of people saying he was pouting and acting. I actually thought that
he was getting frustrated.
I thought he got frustrated, but I don't have a problem with that. He was 0 for 9. I'm actually got a bigger problem if Keonte George goes 0 for 9 in the half of basketball and doesn't show frustration. Then I think he's aloof and a jerk and he's not a part of it. The fact that at some point along the way tonight, in the worst shooting night of his career to open a brand new season with high expectations, he showed emotion and snapped a little bit. I'm 100% fine with it.
Take a player that's been played 13 years in the league and had nights like that where I can make that shot. That shot usually goes in. I mean, what's going on? Now your mechanics you get to the point where you're trying to be very careful with your mechanics and you're just not playing that flow and the pressure starts to build.
So I said it today. And this is going to be one of those quotes that's out there on the internet, so I'm going to own it because I have put it out on the internet. Keonte has shown great maturity, great growth. He's a totally different person. It's neat to watch him grow as a human. He's been totally different than he was a year ago. It's all fabulous. The ball has to go in.
Yes.
At some point, the ball didn't go in Baylor. The ball didn't go in last year. The ball has to go in.
Yeah. As soon as you see one go in, that's why a lot of players like to get layups early, and then work your way back out. You see it go in, then things start to change a little bit. Didn't happen tonight. Tomorrow, Friday night against the Golden State Warriors, he might have the game of his life. Who knows?
7 assists is a lot for him. 3 of 18 is bad. Like there's no.
Was it 0 for 9? It
was 0 for 9, then 3 of 9 in the second half. Only hit 1 of 6 threes. And then I did think his shot last year, his go-to shot last year was this drive where he lowered your shoulder, particularly the right hand. He lowers his left shoulder into you and then kind of banks it off the glass. And he wasn't getting the contact the way he wants, so it became like this wild right-hander off the glass that had zero chance to go in. And I think when Will Hardy's been talking about shot discipline tonight, this offseason, I don't think Keonte fell into the shot discipline that Will Hardy wants to see out of him tonight.
Okay, when you see with players get just dominated defensively, just dogged for the most part, if you want to call it that, and you're thinking so much about not turning the basketball over, and that this guy's just hounding you to the point where you're trying to create space so you can get your shot off, and it's not natural. He had a bad night. And hopefully he'll get enough players, defensive players, challenging him this way, the way these last 2 ball games anyway, that he gets better at it. It's a big thing there. He's got to get better.
Here's what's going to be interesting. Colin Sexton is a better scorer and more efficient scorer than Keonte George.
Yes, he is, without a doubt.
And so will other teams put their best defensive player on Colin Sexton or on Keonte George? And could that open up Keonte a little bit? Or, I think Friday night's interesting. Steph Curry's not guarding anybody from 75 feet.
No,
he's not at 35 years old. So do they suddenly take Brandon Pajemski or whoever started for them? I think Andrew Wiggins might have started for them at the other. Well, Andrew Wiggins isn't guarding at 75 feet either at this point in his career. The Warriors don't have, so they suddenly bring Gary Payton Jr. into the game to pick up, who has played 10 minutes tonight, to pick up Keonte George at 75 feet on Friday, and it is a memo to the league that, until this kid can bust this is what you get every night.
Yeah. It looks like Wiggins may have started at guard.
Yeah.
And
they started Wiggins, Curry, Kuminga, Green, and Jackson Davis. They don't have someone who's hassling you for 75 feet. No. And so from a Jazz standpoint, maybe tomorrow that's a game that's much more pleasant for, and frankly, we play Dallas after that. They got Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and Klay Thompson. None of those guys are picking up at 75 feet either.
Yeah.
So if somehow guys go or teams go out of their rotation or out of character to start guarding Keonte at 75 feet, that's going to be an interesting thing that Memphis
to filter around the league. Yes.
All right, let's start it up. This one's pretty easy. 2
Walker
stars.
Kessler.
I'll agree with you.
Walker Kessler.
And Lauri Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen, right.
They were great tonight. Jazz fall 126, 124. If you've not signed up yet, there's a new Locked On Jazz newsletter, which will include emptying the noggin as many times as I can. The Empty the Noggin will return. So go to LockedOnDaily.com right now and sign up for the Locked On Jazz newsletter. It'll come in your inbox every single day. It'll include a national story as well. Lacey agrees. Lacey made a mistake. Lacey was here tonight.
Yes, I saw her.
Yeah, she made a mistake, and she said Hendricks, and she's retracted that mistake.
Okay. All right.
It's opening night for everyone.
Yeah.
Even Lacey. So go sign up at LockedOnDaily.com to pick that up. On behalf of Ron Boone, I'm David Locke. Have a great night. On video, we'll send you over to on video, we're sending you nowhere. Just have a great one. Locked On NBA Game Night is the new Locked On NBA show covering all the night's action.